Sequels are, of course, the lifeblood that keeps Hollywood ticking. If a single standalone movie is a commercial hit, the studio will want to find every possible avenue to exploit it with as many sequels as humanly possible. But sequels aren't inherently a bad thing, even if they often are tough to justify from a creative perspective. There are, after all, much worse things than merely giving the audience more of what they enjoyed the first time. Yet, it's also fair to say that some sequels feel willed into existence solely by executives who simply can't imagine a future where they don't exist. It doesn't matter that there's no natural setup for a new movie, or there may not even be an audience who are particularly enthused about a sequel. It's just going to happen anyway. And that's absolutely true of these upcoming sequels, none of which were enthusiastically called for, and yet they're going to get made regardless. With that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with 9 more upcoming movie sequels nobody wants. Number 9, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. While promoting his surprisingly solid, belated Beetlejuice sequel last year, director Tim Burton appeared to be firmly against making a third film, seemingly appreciating just how tough the second film was to get made, and how unlikely it was to live up to the original as it did. However, back in April, Warner Bros. Announced that a third Beetlejuice, presumably entitled Beetlejuice, 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 was in development, with deals currently being worked out with all the key talent. But Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice being a rare decades-later comedy sequel that actually felt worth a damn was such a pleasant surprise, such a flash-in-the-pan hit, that it feels mighty foolish to try and strike gold again. Sure, Warner Bros. Was never going to merely accept the film's mighty $451.9 million box office haul and leave it at that. But getting it right 3 times in a row seems massively unlikely. All involved should probably quit while they're ahead. But considering that the previous film's success will likely ensure fat pay bumps for all of them, it's probably going to get made soon enough.
Film and TV is cool, but you know what else is cool? Protecting your privacy online. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description and get up to 76% off a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 4 months free and up to a $50 Amazon gift card if you sign up today. I'd make that deal. Damn good deal.
Number 8, Toy Story 5. Toy Story 3 seemed like such a perfect conclusion to the franchise that even the most die-hard fans bemoaned the announcement of a 4th film. And yet, as unnecessary as it was, Toy Story 4 nevertheless served up a solid epilogue to the trilogy. But of course, Disney doesn't know the meaning of the word enough, and so a 5th film was confirmed by the Mouse House in February 2023 for a 2026 release, with Tom Hanks and Tim Allen once again set to return as Woody and Buzz. The plot will reportedly revolve around the toys competing with phones, tablets, and other smart tech devices for their kids' attention. Now, while relevant to contemporary life, it doesn't sound like a terribly interesting direction for a new Toy Story, and does little to silence those who feel that Disney is diluting the brilliance of the original 3 films with these perfunctory sequels. Toy Story 5 would be easier to tolerate if it was a soft reboot focusing on a new gang of toys. But after 2 emotional farewells to Woody and co, it feels disingenuous to keep bringing them back. Will Toy Story 5 be bad? Almost certainly not. But it's unlikely to have the shine that made the first 3 so brilliant. Number 7, The Resurrection of the Christ. Ever since Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ released in 2004, grossing more than $600 million globally, there's been talk of a sequel focusing on the resurrection of Jesus. Various drafts of the script have been written, yet only in recent years has Gibson begun to seriously talk up a second film. By last September, the filmmaker was scouting locations, and back in January, he revealed the title as The Resurrection of the Christ, with original star Jim Caviezel reprising his role as Jesus with the help of digital de-aging tech. In May, Lionsgate confirmed that they were co-producing and distributing the film, which is scheduled to start shooting in August for a 2026 release. But even accepting Gibson's obvious filmmaking skill, this just sounds like a disaster in the making. namely the logistical headache of de-aging Caviezel for most of the movie. Accepting that mega-budget blockbusters struggle with this, a more modestly priced biblical drama has the potential to make a right mess of it. And beyond that, it really feels like far too much time has passed for Resurrection to tap into the original zeitgeist appeal. Number 6. Roadhouse 2. To its measured credit, last year's Roadhouse remake was far from the disaster that many fans of the Patrick Swayze starring original expected. But it was still a modest with a capital M success at best. Yet for Amazon, it wasn't the mixed critical reception that mattered. It was the 50 million viewers who watched it in its first 2 weekends on Prime Video. This presented enough value that barely a month after the film's release, the streamer announced that Roadhouse 2 was in development, with Jake Gyllenhaal set to return in the lead role. And this past April, Guy Ritchie was confirmed to be directing. The first Roadhouse just barely passed the sniff test. But considering that this sequel is being penned by Will Beall, whose mixed bag of a filmography includes Aquaman, Bad Boys Ride or Die, and Beverly Hills Cop XLF, it's tough to be much excited out of the gate. Ritchie could be an intriguing filmmaking choice, if not for the fact that he's clearly in unapologetic gun-for-hire mode these days, given the number of generic action thrillers he's got on the go at any moment. For the many who watched Roadhouse, who actually remembers much about it a year later, let alone has genuine sustained interest in a second go-around? All this filmmaking talent could be put to so much better use. Number 5, Dogma 2. There's a strong argument to be made that Dogma is Kevin Smith's very best movie, and as one of his most commercially successful films to date, it's also one which Smith has considered producing a sequel to many times. However, by 2017, Smith ultimately decided not to pursue Dogma 2, noting that he no longer wanted to produce any religious-themed films. But everything changed last October when the filmmaker finally got the rights to Dogma back from Harvey Weinstein after a prolonged negotiation. Soon afterwards, Smith revealed that he was brainstorming ideas for Dogma 2 and hoped that original stars Matt Damon and Ben Affleck would at least make cameo appearances. And while there's no concrete guarantee that Dogma 2 ever happens, given that Smith announces prospective sequels all the time, this is definitely the most sacrosanct film in his catalogue in terms of producing a follow-up. Considering that Damon and Affleck's inclusion would likely feel forced and there isn't really a natural in for a second film, as well as the wildly uneven quality of Smith's more recent sequels like Jay and Silent Bob Reboot and Clerks 3, this is surely best left alone. Again though, with the many unmade sequels Smith has on the back burner, Dogma 2 could easily end up falling by the wayside. Number 4, Dirty Dancing 2. Dirty Dancing is one of the most iconic and unexpectedly successful films of the 1980s. And while it led to a wider franchise, including a 1988 TV series, a 2004 standalone prequel, various reality TV spin-offs, and a 2017 TV movie remake, a direct sequel has never happened. This was apparently due to Patrick Swayze's reluctance to simply rehash the same concept for another go-around. But in 2020, a sequel was formally announced with Jennifer Grey set to reprise the role of Baby. By 2022, Jonathan Levine had been hired to direct. This one's really simple. Patrick Swayze's 2009 passing leaves a massive void for any direct sequel to the original Dirty Dancing, and one that's basically impossible to fill. While it's reasonable to assume that the new movie will go the legacy sequel route and have Baby work with a younger dancer, this story never really felt like it needed to be anything more than a single film, and certainly not an IP. Decades from now, there will still be people lovingly watching the original, but even if this sequel is produced in the next few years, it'll likely struggle to muster a fraction of the same cultural staying power. Number 3, Blue Streak 2. Blue Streak was a Martin Lawrence starring buddy cop film released way back in 1999. And though it was a strong box office hit, grossing $117.7 million globally, initial plans for a sequel never came to fruition. But last October, Sony confirmed that they were actively developing Blue Streak 2, with Lawrence set to return in the role of jewel thief Miles Logan. It's fair to assume that the sequel was likely given the green light following the commercial success of the last 2 Bad Boys films, also a Sony property, confirming the box office power of not only Lawrence but also buddy cop films. But Bad Boys also has Will Smith, And while the chemistry between Lawrence and Luke Wilson in Blue Streak was fun to a point, we don't even know if Wilson is coming back for part 2. This feels less likely to enjoy a Bad Boys-esque resurgence than join the glut of decades-later comedy sequels that just have no juice at all. Number 2, Spring Breakers: Salvation Mountain. Much as Harmony Korine's Spring Breakers is one of the most memorable and unique crime thrillers of the 2010s, was there a single solitary soul jonesing for another pop? Everything in the bones of this movie screams one-off, and yet the producers did try to get a sequel made in 2014 without the involvement of Korine or star James Franco. Spring Breakers: The Second Coming. This ended up being shelved by 2017, but mere weeks ago it was confirmed that a standalone sequel, Spring Breakers: Salvation Mountain, was imminently due to begin production. The sequel, which is being billed as a bold new ride for Gen Z, will star Bella Thorne, Ariel Martin, Grace Van Dien, and True Whitaker, while veteran filmmaker Matthew Bright has been tapped to direct. Were Korine involved, maybe there'd be some interest in this, but without his strange, satirical perspective, what's left? Plus, accepting that Bright hasn't directed a feature film in over 20 years, and his last one was the infamous Gary Oldman dud Tiptoes, he doesn't exactly sound like a great fit to tap the vein of Gen Z malaise. Number 1, Trash's Revenge: The Return of the Living Dead Universe. And finally, a real deep cut now. 1985's The Return of the Living Dead is one of the most beloved zombie films of all time, which has nevertheless spawned 4 increasingly derided sequels, as well as a franchise reboot recently being confirmed. Linnea Quigley, who played Trash in the original film, announced last year that she was developing her own sequel to The Return of the Living Dead called Trash's Revenge. This one immediately raises eyebrows for a number of reasons. First off, Trash died in the original movie, and though the film's crowdfunding page suggests that she'll be resurrected via a meta-narrative element, the whole peeking over the fourth wall shtick is starting to feel quite tired in horror. Moreover, while numerous original actors will reprise their roles in the film, the late likes of James Karen and Don Karff will be included with the help of CGI tech. Given that Trash's Revenge is very clearly a low-budget affair, having crowdfunded around $65,000 to date, a fraction of the original's $4 million price tag, resurrecting late actors with CGI deepfakes frankly sounds like a nightmare. Despite the seemingly good-hearted intent to produce a follow-up, this also feels like a bit of a desperate attempt to make fetch happen, but way too late.